Ayn is under that grouping there, that's heading called epistemology, which has to do with knowledge. Okay, and in science we don't know anything, even though the word science derives from the word knowledge. Of course, that came from the Greeks and primarily from the Latins, from the Romans. The science has nothing to do with knowledge because we don't know anything. And before you can do that, you have to define the word knowledge, which we are going to do that today. Okay? And so, Ayn Rand was here and she was doing epistemology. She dealt with truth, fact, knowledge, proof, evidence, consciousness, sensations, perceptions. She used all five senses. Well, she used all five senses, but primarily she dealt with the two that everybody deals with, which is touch and see. Okay, but yeah, she believed that both entities and existence had to do with touching and with seeing, with perceiving, and that's where we disagree. That's not objective. That's very subjective. And then, we have the supernatural and irrational theories, which are completely on the right there on the bottom. Supernatural theories, those are the traditional religions primarily. Why are they supernatural? Because you can imagine the objects that do the mediation. You can imagine the mediators, but the explanations are totally irrational. Supernatural is known, you can invoke a god, you can invoke a spirit, you can turn the mind into some kind of angel or whatever. You talk about good and bad, and those are not, you cannot explain a real life phenomenon with that. On the other hand, the irrational theories are a little different than the supernatural theories in that they turn concepts into objects. And again, mathematical physics is famous for that. It goes in there and turns, for example, it turns mass into a physical object as it bends space-time, turns time into a physical object. It's this coordinate that bends because mass sits on it. What is all that? And no, we can't use any of those notions in a consistent way. That's why they belong to religion, because it all comes down to opinion as far as, what epistemology is, knowledge. What you know for sure that God exists. Well, your neighbor says that God doesn't exist. So which of you knows for a fact? So knows is just a way of shoving one's religion down someone else's throat. That's what the word knows or knowledge stands for. The word knowledge belongs strictly to religion. Okay, and I'm going to show that in a second here. Okay, let's go with that definition. I started with definitions the other day, showed that a lot of them were subjective, Ayn's definitions. And today I'm going to cover, again, some more. Here's one of them, and that's the word knowledge that she uses every 2 seconds. And she says in, I think it's in Atlas Shrugged, one of her famous books, "You who dread knowledge." I guess she was referring to me. Yeah, I dread knowledge because there's no such thing as knowledge. Anyone using the word knowledge is doing religion, trying to shove his beliefs down your throat. And why? Because we don't have a definition of knowledge to begin with. We're still using Plato's definition there, justified true belief. Knowledge is belief. It's your opinion. That's what knowledge is. There is no such thing as knowledge. And some people confuse and think that it's technology which proves knowledge. See, if we can build a device that's useful, like a cell phone, well, obviously we have knowledge, right? And again, that's confusing the issues. We develop technology by trial and error, not because quantum mechanics is right, is correct, is been proven. Okay? Quantum mechanics says nonsense, like a particle can be at 2 places at once. That's one of the worst things that quantum says, so I like to put that one in there. A particle can be at 2 places at once. In fact, it can be at many places at once, according to quantum mechanics. That's an irrational physical interpretation. No matter how you turn it around, it's an irrational physical interpretation. So when they say a quantum computer, why? Because it runs on this notion of decoherence. What does that mean? It means that a particle can be at 2 places at once or at several places at once, And they say that's the explanation we give it. And with the effect that we see in the lab, we can produce a device that works and that gives us all this technology. That doesn't prove that the theory that a particle can be at two places at once. And that's what people don't understand, that quantum is garbage as far as physical interpretations is concerned. Not one of the physical interpretations of quantum mechanics can function. Starting from the atom, you've got the atom and you've got the electron going around it. Well, why doesn't the electron fly away to begin with, spontaneously? And it doesn't fly away. Why? Because of what? What keeps it tied to the proton? And until you can answer that question, you don't have a theory. Okay? And that's the issue. Anyways, returning here to good old Ayn says, man needs a method of cognition. Oh, he does? So we need to be cognizant. See, again, this notion that philosophy is the mother of all disciplines, because first you need to detect, you need to observe, you need to, perceive, okay? Before you can do any thinking, any analysis, before you can move into physics or chemistry or whatever, you need to perceive. That's the notion people have, okay? Needs a method of cognition, which he himself has to discover. He must discover how to use his rational faculty, how to validate his conclusions, how to distinguish truth from falsehood. Truth from falsehood? I thought those were opinions. How to set up criteria of what he may accept as knowledge. Criteria for knowledge? I don't know. You tell me, what do you mean by knowledge? What is it? Plato says belief. So we need a criteria for belief. This is what you got to think of. Unless you can define the word knowledge precisely, unambiguously, rigorously, crisply, you can't use the word knowledge because we don't know what you're talking about. And that's the issue here. He has to bring all things into the realm of the humanly knowable. Knowable? What do you mean knowable? Again, without a definition, we don't know. But far from leading to subjectivism, the methods which he has to employ require the most rigorous mathematical precision. So she's going to use mathematics as her method. And that's a description that doesn't explain anything, because math can only describe. It has no power to explain. I dealt with that last time. Okay. Anyways, the most rigorous compliance with objective rules and facts. Again, objective facts. What is that? Facts are the facts, man. Just the facts. The policeman asks, and everybody has their own facts. Okay. If the end product is to be knowledge. Again, we haven't learned anything from her version of knowledge. Let's see Bill's version of knowledge in comparison so that we can have a contrast. Knowledge, to predict the result of an experiment without error. Now we know what knowledge is. And you say, what do you mean, predict the result of an experiment without error? And yeah, the issue with knowledge is that how do you show knowledge? How do you prove to the tribunal, to the jury, to the judge, to whoever, to the prosecutor, to the defense attorney? How do you prove knowledge? How do you prove it to the professors at the university? Do you just regurgitate and say, well, Napoleon went to Waterloo in 1815? I know for a fact. Oh, how do you know for a fact? Were you there? Did you see Napoleon? Did you shake his hand? Did you have intimate knowledge of this? I mean, were you at the battle? Right? And even if you went to the battle and with your camera and filmed it, brought it back, Einstein-like, time travel, and you showed the professor and say, look, I filmed the battle. That's Napoleon there. I interviewed him. You did that in Hollywood. I mean, you can't prove now. All you have is belief. Yeah, okay, I believe you. You sound honest. Looks like everybody who wrote history was onto something. They all said that there was a guy named Napoleon. Can we talk about that as knowledge? Is that knowledge? Just regurgitating what you read in a book? and say, yeah, Napoleon was at Waterloo and he fought a battle and blah, 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 blah? Yeah? Did he stick his hand also inside his chest there? All those are beliefs. We can only believe the past of what someone tells you. And we can discuss that all day long. In the end, you're going to agree that it's just a belief. We believe that Napoleon went to Waterloo and that he fought a battle because that's what they've been telling us, for the last 200 years. No one's been there to verify, to film the scene or whatever. We can't even tell you that what happened in the 60s, even though we had cameras, because again, someone's going to say, well, that was done in Hollywood, whatever you're showing. I mean, I can show you Superman flying in the 60s. I saw him. I know for a fact that Superman flies. Does that mean he flies? Are you going to believe that? Or was I there filming Superman, or was that done in Hollywood? So we got a lot of that issue. You can't use reading a book as knowledge. On the other hand, how do you show that you do know something? Well, you predict. You make a prediction, say, I can predict it without error. It's going to happen. Okay? Whatever it is. And then it happens, whatever, you run an experiment or you have an observation of some natural phenomenon. You say, this is what's going to happen for sure, 100% sure. And then you show your knowledge. But like I said to JF on Sunday, you let go of the pen 100 times so you know for sure gravity pulls it to the center of the earth. And then you bet them $1 million. When you let go of the pen, it stays in the air. And you say, how did that happen? And it turns out that someone turned the blower from below, kept it up in the air, or they had a couple magnets holding it in the air. So you did not know that the pen was going to fall to the floor. You had an intelligent guess based on your experience. But to say that you know for a fact that it's going to fall to the floor, you don't know in advance. You can't predict the future perfectly exactly because, among other things, you don't know if an asteroid hits the Earth before the pen falls to the floor and destroys all of us. And no one collects on the bet because the pen never made it to the floor. Okay, so no, knowledge, we don't have knowledge. There's no such thing, not even God has knowledge. Okay?